Welcome to Shadow Work. Let's shine some light on our shadows. Quick disclaimer for this presentation here. It's provided for on behalf of Conscious Living Foundation. It is private information for educational purposes only. It does not constitute legal, medical, or financial advice from anyone involved. My name is Rolf Kahnert. I call myself a conscious living coach or mentor, and I'm also a Gene Keys ambassador. I'll talk about the Gene Keys a little bit later too. I'm here in the Redlands, Redland Bay, Queensland, and yeah, let's start. Change is never painful. Only resistance to change it is. How true is that, hey? So let's go through this presentation where I want to cover some questions. First of all, what are shadows? You know, everyone is talking about shadow or shadow aspects. What do we really mean? What are those shadows, you know, and why should we shine light in our shadows or do some contemplation? And then I'll talk about how do we do that? How can we shine light on your shadows? And I distinguish between collective shadows, collective aspects, as well as individual shadows. And before we start, you know, how do you feel when you, let's say, operate from your reactive patterns or victim patterns or shadows? There are three different names for the same thing. How do you feel, and how would you feel if you transcend or transform them and yeah, get the best out of your life, out of your potential, and move forward as an enlightened, awakened, sovereign human being? How would that feel? Just imagine. And did you know that more than 90% of our life is determined by unconscious pattern? Now that's amazing. Right? If you become aware of that, we all, yeah, we almost like on autopilot without even realizing it. So are you ready to bring your individual unconscious pattern into the light of awareness? Because that's what it is. We bring it into the light of awareness. So we become more aware of it. And before I start, I want to just briefly talk about what I believe shadow aspects are. And we can have a look at it in a way that there are three stages of frequency bands, and the healing community is all aware of frequencies, right? So and those three frequency bands, they play an important role in our psychological and spiritual development. So when we talk about shadow, we can also call them reactive patterns or victim states, right? So, and that is when we are worried about our survival. That's the first thing. And fear is in the driver's seat without even realizing it. It's all unconscious or subconscious. So that's when we find ourselves in shadow territory. And also shadows can be expressed individually in a repressive way or even in a reactive way. So more introvert or extrovert in other ways.
Rolf, on that same note there, if I can interrupt, where have been
Sure.
occasions, have you seen examples, or, you know, is it easy for people to sort of behave in this sort of victim state? Have you seen instances where you've sort of helped people, like clients in your sort of experience, where it's easy to notice it as a coach like yourself, but how do you help people to recognize that that's their behavioral pattern, or what can people do to sort of really feel into it?
Yeah. Well, first thing, I hear that there's blaming or complaining.
Yeah.
Two aspects, you know, then I know, okay, that's a victim state. People have given away their power and they feel helpless.
Yeah.
Victim of, you know, all the circumstances, the government, this and that, and they're not free anymore. But I'll cover that a little bit later, where I explain it a little bit more in detail. But that's the first thing I notice, you know, when people are complaining all the time or blaming, pointing the finger outwards, oh, it's their fault and it's because of this and because of that. So we need to take responsibility and become what I call accountable. Mm-hmm. Responsible, able to respond rather than react.
Yeah, perfect.
There's the difference, but I'll cover that too. So at the second frequency band, which is a higher vibrational frequency band, is when we talk about our creative potential, or our gifts or talents, our genius, right? And you can see that and feel that and observe that when we are orientated towards serving others and also honoring ourselves and being accountable. That's a very important word. So rather than protecting or defending ourselves or blaming or complaining, what I said before, so then we more naturally share our talents with others and we feel a sense of belonging in the world. So if someone feels isolated and can't do anything or is hopeless or helpless, that's victim state. That's a shadow territory. And it is without judging it, just looking at it from a point of view that go into the frequencies, it has a lower vibration compared to creative potential. Without judging it, it's just an observation, right?
Yeah.
So, and if we go even a step higher, a really high vibrational state, we can say that's the full expression of our true self. And that is when we have entered a pure state of expansion and have completely surrendered our sense of separateness into the whole. We can also call it the siddhi. The Gene Keys call it the siddhi, which is a Sanskrit word for divine expression, right? And we all have that in us. We can all function and operate and be in this world like it. But I'll talk a little bit later what keeps us sort of trapped in this, or seemingly trapped in this shadow state. So these three states, they're always, we always come in and out, they're dancing and breathing together, they're shifting and changing. We are not always locked in one state. It's always changing and shifting, yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and I distinguish between, through my research and my work, I distinguish between collective shadow aspects and individual aspects, which are all part of our human experience. We are part of the collective shadow aspects. And I explain what I mean. Just quickly, at the moment, we are in a global crisis of conflict, chaos, and confusion. Systems are broken or breaking down, not because they're breaking down, they're built that way, actually. And that is all part of using our shadow state, our unconscious states, to manipulate us. And most people are not even aware of it. Remember, more than 90% of what we do every day is just shadow state, and it's just reactive patterns, because we don't know any other way. We know, but we suppress it. A continuous.
Well, right. You've got some tools to share with us maybe later, or like just to sort
I
of,
have.
yeah, be
Yes.
conscious of how we can sort of be aware if we're in that sort of state and what we can do.
Yes, absolutely. Towards the end, I have some tools and I show you how to work, how I work with shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a continuous loss of values in our Western society is due to what I call an atheistic, materialistic worldview. And that has caused, or is the cause for worldwide tension in the inside as well as on the outside. This leads to psychological and social disorders and is manifesting also in various diseases and conflicts, external conflicts, internal conflicts, disease outside, disease inside. The outside is a reflection of the inside and vice versa. You cannot distinguish, you cannot separate those things. So the consequences, and we can see that all over the planet, is a degeneration process. And most people feel there's a loss of meaning. There's a degeneration, biological degeneration. There's an impoverishment of many people in connection with fears and anxieties for the future. And what we need now more than ever is a reorientation of all our values and ideals and a deep understanding of our true nature as human beings, which I call the shadow work. We need to look at three things. To go a little bit deeper. I hope I'm not going too deep, but just bear with me. So we have a self view. The way we view ourselves is based on concepts and beliefs, conditioning, where we brought up, society, educational systems. There are concepts and beliefs we take for granted, and this forms our reactive patterns. That also forms our worldview, the way we see the world. It's conditioning, and we have what I call perceptual filters. You know, the way I see through my sort of colored glasses, the way I see the world. And of course, I have an inner view also. It's based on my own values and morals. So I need to ask myself, it's the basis of shadow work. Who am I? Who am I really? It's deep work. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, mindfulness, and dedication to go deep into that territory. The question is, how deep is one prepared to go? So here we have on one side the shadow, on the other side, let's call it the light. Shadow and light. Light stands by itself. Shadow disappears when the light is shining on the shadow. Just as an example, as a metaphor, yeah? So people think they're a person. Or are they really a man or woman? There's a difference, and it's important to find out what the difference is. I call it the external awakening, the role I play in the world. But I don't want to go too deep into that, but for me, that's important. Who am I? Am I a person or a man or a woman? And there's an internal awakening. It's, am I the body and the mind, or am I really aware presence? Again, there's a huge difference. And I have created a map or a guideline for shining the light of awareness on our collective and individual shadow aspects to be able to navigate in these times of change. And here's my map. We have 3 doors or ways or windows to perceive reality. And through my work, I think this is important to understand, because otherwise we're just tiptoeing and guessing and do work that is not really effective. We need to understand reality. We need to understand how we function. The way we see reality is we see the world through the process of perception, perceiving, shapes our worldview. We have a sense and a feeling of our body. I call it the inner view. And there's the mind. It's a process of thinking and imagining. That's a self view. So the world, the body, and the mind. When the glasses of perception is cleared, we can see beauty everywhere. When our senses and feelings are cleared up, we connect or recover or reconnect to love, which is our true nature. And when our thinking and thinking, inner pictures as well as thoughts are clear, we can not perceive the truth. You cannot really see or understand the truth, but we have a wider understanding, and shadow has no stronghold in us anymore. So here are, from my understanding, we have the 3 main collective shadows, what I have worked out. One I called, that's our dilemma, it's forgetting. We have forgotten who we truly are. So the belief in materialism is the biggest shadow, one of the biggest shadows, because we believe we are born in a world and we share the limits and the destiny of the body and the mind. That means I'm born, my life starts when I'm born, and I'm this lump of flesh, and when this body dies, I'm dying. That's shadow territory. It is not our true experience. And do we really share the limits and the destiny of the body? We can explore that when we go deeper. So through our perception, we see the world of matter, the world out there, we believe. We believe there is a world out there and I'm a victim. The next one is that has to do with our suffering, actually. And that is based on the belief in separation. That's the second main shadow aspect of our collective consciousness. The belief in fragmentation, the belief that I'm this helpless fragment running around on this planet. And that I see other bodies, and because I see and sense myself as a separate entity, as a fragment, I have this inherent feeling of lack and vulnerability. So therefore, I'm constantly on the defense, or I need to attack in order not to get hurt. So it's the me and the other. If we don't address that, I think we're not getting anywhere. And the third main thing is this helplessness, this our main challenge, this victimhood, the victim state. And here we believe in powerlessness. We believe that we are powerless, and we are powerless victims of a heartless system, or this harsh environment. You know, I need to do this in order to protect myself and to get anywhere. And what I said before, the constant action of blaming, complaining, giving away my power. I can't do anything. I'm helpless and hopeless. So it's the system, it's the world, it's the others who are controlling me. Is this really true? So most of the time, the way we talk about shadows, first of all, we're not aware of it. And second, we don't know what to do with it. And third, we judge it. Say, well, that's something wrong with me. I need to get rid of my shadows. But that's not the way it works. I see the shadows or reactive patterns as an invitation. Invitation for what? Invitation to master our creative potential, because we all have creative potential. We are creators. And how do I do that? I ask myself, who am I? And I go deep into this contemplation. Who am I? Am I really this body, mind? Or do I need to react all the time? Or pause a moment when something is happening to me, pause and breathe, connect with my inner state of being, and then I am able to respond, knowing my own being, I call it. The second one is asking the question, how can I really find peace and happiness in this world? I think that's the main reason why we're all here on this planet, to find lasting peace and happiness, right? It's at the heart of the human condition. We want to live in peace. We want to be free. What is stopping us? Victimhood, sense of separation, and forgetting who we are. And the other question is, why am I here? What is all this thing about? Am I here to constantly struggle and suffer? Is that my purpose? Or is there another purpose? How do I get there? Well, in order to get there, we need to face our shadow aspects. There's no other way around. We have to start somewhere. And when I start to live my individual purpose, then I'm moving towards embodying my true nature. And again, it's always the main tool for me of shadow work is question everything. Question everything you think you know, ask questions. And here an important one is what is the nature of experience? And here we can go to the core. What is the nature of my experience? The nature of my experience is aware presence. Have I ever experienced a disappearance of my awareness? No. But that's enough for now. Just an overview. And then what is the nature of being? Well, the real nature of my being is love. It might sound a little bit lofty at the moment, but if we dive deep into this experience, then we know what it means to live with non-resistance. And the other question is, what is the nature of reality? Well, nature of reality is I know and I'm present, therefore I'm aware, and that is inherently free. It is free. So we claim our freedom through shadow work, we claim love through shadow work, and we claim the knowing presence. So here I've got some things where in workshops or webinars or more work, I dive into those questions. And just a few questions here. What do we know about the mind and the body and the world? If we dive deep into that, that is part of shadow work. So, and what is the difference between the now and the known? And what is time? What is space? There are 3 steps of self-realization, but you can all read it through. I don't want to cover too much of that. And here also with the sensing and feeling, the deep dive into undoing the belief in separation is the sense of otherness is the source for fear and suffering, one of the main shadow aspects of humanity. And what is our shared reality? Obviously not the body. So if we dive deeper that and realize what our shared reality is, then we come to a feeling or sense what everyone talks about. We are all one. What does it really mean? And then I talk about how to embody aware presence and how to recognize my reactive patterns and the art of contemplation and strategies and solutions for shadow work. And then how do I use my mind? How do I use my thinking? Who is doing the thinking? Who is the thinker? And what is my role in this apparent control system? Let's call it the Matrix. I think most of us are familiar with the trilogy, The Matrix. What is my role really in it? Again, the Matrix is here to deceive us and make us powerless and as a victim. Well, it's time to wake up through shadow work and realize what's really going on and learning to ask questions, learning to ask, how did we get here? How do we get out? And what is this system all about? So yeah, 5 major systems of manipulation control, which is the money, economy, health, media, and energy. There's just a few keywords for now. So we can dive deeper with a deep dive program which I have put together already. There's a recorded introduction. And the first part is we go into the world of perception and discovering the beauty of the world and undoing the belief in materialism and the belief that we share the limits and destiny of the body. The second part is we go into sensing, feeling, and asking how can we find peace and happiness. So shadow work then in undoing those false and limiting beliefs. And then the final one is uncovering the truth and asking what is the nature of reality? Why am I here? So, and they're all presentation, contemplations and meditations and strategies to work with our shadow aspects. I also have monthly online meetings where we can discuss all this, and I call it conscious conversations and meditation contemplation. People can go on my website, rolfgranert.com, click under events, and there you can see it, you can register. It's a free monthly 1.5 hour meeting, online meeting. So that was the collective. It was my work in sort of working with people to understand what is my involvement, my role in this collective shadow aspect. And then also go even deeper and talk about individual shadow aspects. And we explore then what is hidden in our DNA. Can we influence our DNA? Every emotion carries an electrical charge at generous frequency. We know that through Healy too. Low frequency emotions cause your DNA to contract. That's interesting, right? Whereas high frequency emotions can cause your DNA to expand. A sense of love, compassion, fear, control, anxiety contracts your DNA. Now, that's, I think, an important point to remember. So every word, every thought, every intent, every feeling and action is directly programming your reality through your DNA. A change in consciousness, therefore, creates a change in biology. It's not the other way around. So consciousness creates reality, not the body. And I think some people, or most people, are aware of the work of Bruce Lipton, Biology of Belief. If not, look him up, worthwhile to read. He says exactly that our consciousness, our environment, including our consciousness, creates our reality. So as a Gene Keys ambassador and talking about individual shadow aspects, my main tool is working with the Gene Keys. So quickly introducing the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. It's what's called the voyage of self-illumination, shining the light onto our reactive patterns. And what if you could have a map that shows your individual unconscious patterns, as well as your creative genius, helping you to grow into an authentic and spiritual human being? Number 64 is a magic number here. It's a synthesis out of the 64 gene keys, because they correspond to the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching and also the 64 codons in our DNA. It's a bit like computer language, 64-bit computers. That's our software. Your Gene Keys profile unifies astrological calculation with an archetypical understanding of genetics. It's your original blueprint that can tell you who you are, how you operate, and why you're here. It's a guided journey of transformation that shows you how to apply this knowledge into your life. There's a free profile you can get. Again, there's my website, click on Gene Keys, and there you can download a free profile with an introduction I've put together, a free PDF file. So that is an example. That's what a Gene Keys profile looks like. Here you can see spheres on there with keywords, and the keywords are an example for your shadow aspects, your individual challenges or reactive patterns, your gift, your potential, as well as your pure essence. So their keywords, I'll work with people and guide them through their Gene Keys profile to get to know my own individual shadow aspects. What's blocking me in my life's work, with my growth and evolution, with my health, with my relationship, my prosperity, because it's all in there. Here's the 64 keys, Gene Keys. Here's what's called the spectrum of consciousness. They're archetypical aspects where we all have some of them that are relevant for us, that are sort of in our profile. They're relevant for us, and others are not. But here's a list, and here you can see all the shadow aspects. But that's all.
If I can interrupt, so what information is needed for everyone to sort of work out their own blueprint that they're sort of, is it born with? Is that how you would explain it?
Yeah, you need your date of birth, time of birth, and the town of your birth, the town, city, town, or and country. Okay. That's all you need. So then there's a software in the background that then creates this profile here with a little bit of explanation too. Okay. And then on the Gene Keys website, you can go through material. There's heaps of videos and explanations. And yeah, but I guide people as well. So now let's go a little bit deeper into shadow work. What is shadow work? The basis here is contemplation and inquiry. It's not something we can do intellectually. It's not something we want to get rid of, or what's another word? Judge, or shouldn't be like that. You know, it's contemplation and inquiry. And first of all, our shadows or reactive patterns, and this might be different to the conventional approach, is to allow and accept. Whatever I'm facing, I'm facing. Whatever is. I don't have to like it, but you probably heard the word, what you resist persists.
Yeah.
So if I have a constant shadow aspect that is triggered, and I'm constantly reacting out of chaos and confusion, that creates my reality. You've heard that before. So, but by pausing for a moment and allowing and accepting, oh, okay, this is what's happening, and I take a deep breather and step back and connect with that, connect with the feeling without judging it, that's the first step in shadow work. But we don't stop there. we only spend maybe 10, 15, 20% of our attention on this part, on the shadow. Because where my attention is, that creates my reality. If I focus my attention on my gifts and my creative impulse, and I recognize them, I can activate it. And the Gene Keys profile can help me with that, because then I know exactly, oh, okay, this is a shadow. What is the gift? Oh, this is this. And how can I make this happening in my life? And where do I observe reactive patterns? It's about mindfulness and then becoming aware, acutely aware of what's happening. So you open your eyes, you open your mind, you open your body to let in what is happening instead of resisting it. Remember, one of the key aspects of the victimhood is blaming, complaining, or fighting, attacking, you know, out of fear, because I don't know who I am. But if I know who I am, I can recognize and activate my gifts and my creative potential. And then finally, I don't have to work on that. Finally, the full expression and the embodiment of my highest self will happen automatically. If I master the expression of my gifts and creative impulses, the full expression happens by itself. I don't need to do anything. I surrender. But I need to start somewhere, and I need to start with recognizing my reactive patterns and allowing them and accepting them. This is how the journey starts. Instead of fighting, reacting, blaming, defending, all those strategies the separate self has in place in order to keep it alive.
On that topic there, Rolf, of the reactive patterns, do you find that people are quite surprised when they first see their blueprint, in that they can relate to a lot of it and it makes them really feel it in their gut, I guess? Have you had some weird sort of responses from people that first see their own blueprint?
Yes, yes. Most people are recognizing straight away. Oh, yes, no, that makes sense. Yes, absolutely, they say. Oh, no, it makes sense because this and this and this. There's a field in the Gene Keys profile talks about attractor field. What kind of people do I attract in my life in order to learn a certain, not learning a lesson, but in order to transform something, or in order to becoming aware, more aware of myself.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's the insight. Ah, now I know. So because you recognize your patterns, all of a sudden you don't need to repeat those things anymore, you know?
True.
And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. And I have realized it and felt it and experienced it myself. Yeah. When I first saw those, saw my reactive patterns and my shadow aspects, everything sort of was falling into place. And I spent really time and was contemplating and observing my life and where is this happening? How do I react? And do I need to do it again? And how do I feel if I react this way out of let's say inadequacy or chaos or something? And then, you know, then you learn to contemplate, you learn to take your time with things and to let it sink in. And all of a sudden, over time, as you do those things, and I don't like the word work, actually, it's not really work, it's just becoming aware,
yeah,
which is natural, really. Let's call it shadow. Oh, I can't find another word at the moment. But it is work and it isn't.
Yeah.
So, and
how people interpret it, would that depend on the level of, let's say, societal or world conditioning that they've had? So if the word work or challenge resonates better with you, would I guess you're probably speaking to such a broad range of people who are at different parts of like a spectrum or continuum. And would that be like where you would have to tailor your words to at least get, like you said, to get people's awareness? Like when we first see our own Gene Keys blueprint, and it's about the nuts sinking home, and it's about talking that language. Do you find sometimes you have to sort of the best word is this, but sometimes you might need to not use the best word in order to get the best comprehension, I think.
Yeah, great question, Daniel. Yeah, absolutely. And then I find, you know, that there's, yeah, it's called a blockage or an unwillingness to open up and to go somewhere and to question themselves. You know, people have certain priorities in life, which is fair enough. You know, we all need to make, yeah, I was nearly going to say, earn a living. I mean, that in itself is it's a paradox. We are here, we're living. Who says we need to earn it?
Yes. Yeah, true.
But to go back, you know, they have now, and I need to do this. I pay the mortgage, and I don't have time for shadow work, and you know, I need to keep going. And okay, if that's your priority, if that's what you need to do, that's fine. On the other hand, then deal with the results then as well. And then when people come back, oh, I can't do it anymore, and this, you know, then I can go deeper and say, well, how important is this and this? And do you really need this and this? And how could you change your behavior in that way? What strategies can we find for you in order to deal with financial pressure or with relationship pressure, challenges? Let's take a step back and let's observe and let's have a look, and where can we start? And do you really need to react this way when this and this and this is happening in your relationship, or how can we do things differently? And it's by investigating.
Yeah.
I don't have the answers. It's just a two-way investigation where we together investigate and dive deep and come to insights. It's about insights, breakthroughs, and then finally epiphanies. Insights. First, the insight has to come from within.
Yeah.
Not from me, but from someone who is working with me. And through questioning and to allowing things and to asking the right question, people have their own insights. And of course, they say, yes, I can see it now. And then they start to behave differently, speak differently. And then all of a sudden there's a breakthrough. Oh, my life changed, and this changed. So the results come over time if you're willing and ready to do the work. It's about willingness and being ready. Otherwise, if you're constantly in this rut, people are in, you know, the modern lifestyle, and this and this and this has to be done and in order, then nothing will change until it comes a time when there's a breakdown and there's pain, suffering, illness, but they're all signs and symptoms of life to stop and have a look and go deeper.
Would an analogy, sorry, Rolf, I don't want to cut you off.
Just quickly, especially now, this whole global situation, I think it's a perfect time or timing for us to stop and reevaluate our values.
100%. And you see that evaluation or sense of inquiry in like small children. Like I don't know, have like if you're watching this replay on now, just sort of reflect back to the little beings around that. You see them in a playground, or you know, through their education and their schooling that they go through, or just in everyday life. You see them asking, but why, but why, but why? So that element of inquiry, and then, you know, take a step back in your own self and just sort of ask yourself, do you inquire every day why you do what you did that day, and why it was maybe very similar to the day before and day before, until, like you said, Rolf, you get like a brick in the face to make you realize whether it's, you know, a bit of an illness or something else, that you get some sort of message that the universe might hit you with, and then trigger that sense of inquiry that you may have had as a younger person, or you see the young, like, you know, little ones running around inquiring about everything. Is that
perfect.
one way that people can like look back and reflect in themselves and just be like, well, why do I do this day in, day out?
That's right. And then instead of blaming, or instead of resisting and fighting the circumstances, and you name it, or anger. I mean, their first reactions to those circumstances, or to illnesses, or getting a brick in your face collectively right now at the moment, it hurts. And the normal response is, shit, I don't like it. That's normal. But we have the capacity to stop and reflect and to go deeper and ask questions and to ask the why questions. Yes, and what does it want to tell me? What's it trying to teach me? What's it trying to do? I need to go down this road to make it even more painful, or can I stop here and saying, okay, simplify, ask questions, and inquiry and contemplation, go to the bottom of it, the root cause, like with any illness, go to the root cause. And as we've seen before, it's always a thing with our awareness. Consciousness creates my reality. That's always the key point. Nature doesn't make mistakes, and environmental signals are not by mistake either. And we as a collective had to come to this point in time, globally, where we are at the moment, with everything that's going on, because we couldn't go on the way we went on. You know, sustainability, you can't rob and plunder the planet and think everything is fine. And the money goes up, you know. But the whole money system, everything has to change. Everything has to change. We cannot go on like this as a species. So therefore, collective shadow work is important, but we need to start with our individual. Only a few slides left. So I have come to understand there's concentration, contemplation, meditation. What is the difference? We all know the waking state. There's a narrow focus on something, you know, we are wide awake. Are we aware of the things that happen underneath and in the wider field of consciousness? No, of course not. Therefore, the waking state can create problems through just the focus. It's helpful, it's there for a reason, but in order to get answers, we have to defocus. And that happens sometimes in our dream state. When we go to bed, there are things popping up. And also through contemplation, we widen our minds, we widen our beings, and we don't have the answers. We become acutely aware and let the answers come to us, the insights. That's contemplation. It's still working of the mind, but it's a wider focus. You know, I let go. I don't have the answers. I'm asking questions. I'm inquiring. So, and meditation in the end, it's what I would call or compare to its deep sleep. There's no focus, there's no experience, there's just deep sleep, which is unlimited ever-present awareness. And that's what we truly are. And we can find that in meditation, sometimes in the gap between the thoughts. In nature, every breath we take, there's an in-breath, there's a gap. Out-breath, there's a gap. There's a thought, there's a gap. Another thought, there's a gap. We don't realize it because the mind is so busy, you know, waking state, the focus. But as we relax and we breathe and connect with our breathing on the center of our being, we widen our awareness, we widen our consciousness, and that's where the answers lie and the pointers. And when we are in meditation, it's a bit like in the gaps between thoughts, the gaps between breath, the gaps between a heartbeat. That's what we are. That's what we are. That's pure essence. We try to make sense of it when the mind pops in again, but the real meaning of meditation is to sit with what is and become acutely aware of the gaps between thoughts. Yeah, I do individual Gene Keys guidance. If people need some guidance to begin with their Gene Keys profiles, I'll help. And I do recorded sessions, you know, where I send some information and I'll record a session and they get an MP3. Or I do live sessions where we do guidance, coaching, shadow work, and I do that Zoom. People can go on my website, get their free profile and so forth. But here also I have a put together as a Gene Keys ambassador. I've been working with the Gene Keys now for 11 years. I'm one of the Gene Keys ambassador, global ambassadors. So here also I'm offering a recorded introduction, MP4 file, as well as we dive deep into the activation sequence, which is the first part. It's about activating our purpose. It's about 4 aspects, 4 shadows, as well as 4 gifts and cities. It's about life's work, evolution, radiance, and purpose. The second webinar is what's called the Venus sequence. It's how to elevate our partnerships. It's about relationships, open our heart in relationships. Here also are 6 aspects, 6 shadow aspects and gifts and cities. And here it's about the purpose of my relationship, my attraction, mental views, emotional patterns, spiritual awareness, and my core wound. So, and then the third part is what's called the Pearl sequence. Here it's about liberating our prosperity. Here are 4 aspects, 4 shadows, 4 gifts and cities. It's about my vocation, culture, my brand, and the core, the prosperity. If people are interested in either the 4 or 3 webinars I mentioned before, or this one here, they can contact you, Daniel or Emma, and we can provide more details. So that is all ready to go. We just need to come up with the dates. So thank you for listening, and just be now, here.